Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to these first symposiums of the EIGG Congress. The name of this symposium is Interagency Action as a Promoter of the Decade of Healthy Aging in the Americas. First, I would like to thank the organizers of this World Congress for the opportunity to be presenting this symposium. During the last years, strong partnerships have been established between WHO and the International Association of Gerontology and Geriatrics. Several scientific products and results of this cooperation has been generated in the last few years. The last periods of the presidency of the EIGG was in the US and now will be in Argentina. That means that the leadership of the International Association of Gerontology have been in the Americas or will be in the Americas for more than 10 years. And the Pan American Health Organization is very proud of this leadership. Really, the America has been very active in this subject to lead the aging and health process. For the last 20 years, was the first region who approved the resolutions around aging and health in the 2002. In the 2003 was the very first region to have an intergovernmental meeting to implement the Madrid plan in the region. Was the first region of WHO to have a plan of action on aging and health approved by Minister of Health of the region in 2009. And was the first and only region to approve the Convention to protect the human rights of older persons in 2015. The countries of America has been a strong leadership in the process to generate and approve the decade of healthy aging. Since then, the agencies of the UN system and as part of the Inter-American Institute started working together to generate a platform to support the implementation of the decade in the region. Today, I have a pleasure to coordinate a panel with a representation of some of these agencies. The presenter number one will be Mr. Simone Cecchini, Director of the Population Division of ECLAC, the Economic Commission of the Latin American and the Caribbean, for the Latin American and the Caribbean.
It is an honor for me to participate in the 22nd World Congress on Gerontology and Geriatrics. Thanks a lot, especially to PAHO, for the invitation to this symposium on interagency action as a driver of the decade of healthy aging in the Americas. Aging is a defining process of Latin American and Caribbean societies. In my presentation, I will focus first on some data on demographic change that characterizes our region. Second, I will discuss the impact of the pandemic on older persons. And thirdly, I will address the synergies that exist between the Madrid International Action Plan on Aging with the decade of healthy aging. At CELADE, the population division of the ECLAC, we produce demographic data for the region. And from that data, we can assess that Latin America and the Caribbean is undergoing a period of very profound demographic change. Over the last 70 years, we have seen a significant decrease in mortality and a significant decrease in fertility levels. And these two demographic phenomena have gone hand in hand with the improvement in living conditions, the improvement in education levels, health, also together with the strong urbanization process. The result of this demographic transition has been increased life expectancy at birth. I consider this to be one of the best indicators of development we have at our disposal. If we look at life expectancy at birth for both sexes, It went from 51.4 years in the 50s to 75.2 years currently. This is a huge achievement that must be celebrated. Also, we have seen sustained and significant decline in fertility. In the 50s, women had on average 5.8 children. Currently, women have only 2 children, which is below the replacement rate. Also, we have seen a great change in the epidemiological profile with an increase in non-communicable diseases, say cancer or heart diseases. And then also it is important to note in a region characterized by great socioeconomic inequalities that there are great differences also with respect to demographic indicators between social groups. So I think we can discuss the fact that Latin America and the Caribbean is going toward what we call an aging society. On the left-hand side, I provide data on people aged 60 years and above. And as we see today, we have 88 million persons aged 60 and above, which represent 13% of the total population. In 2030, this population will go up to 118 million, 16.7% of the total population. And in 2050, we'll have 190 million older persons, 1/4 of the total population. Also, on the chart on the right-hand side, you can see different curves where the red one is the curve representing the population aged 60 and above. And these other age groups, 0-19, 20-39, 40-59 years. Where the line crosses, it means the primacy of a certain age group changes. So in 2022, we have achieved the point where the age group 20-39 years is larger than the group 0-19. So the young society has given rise to the young adult society. Then in 2047, we will have the most important age group will be the one from 40-59 years. So that is the adult society. And very importantly, in 2053, we will see a situation where the age group 60 and above will be the larger group in the population. That is what we call the aging society. Obviously, we are looking at the group 60 and above. Within that group, there are big differences in living conditions, say for persons aged 80 and over. And indeed, the group 80 and over is growing very, very fast. In Latin America and the Caribbean, in 2020, as you can see on the left-hand side of the chart, people aged 80 and above represented only 1.9% of the total population. In 20 years, this percentage will double to 3.8%, and in 2060, it will again almost double, reaching 7.1% of the total population. And if we see the charts disaggregated by sex, we obviously see that women are overrepresented among the very elderly. This is why we can discuss about the feminization of aging. And the feminization of aging is not only a demographic phenomenon, but it goes hand in hand with social problems, because we know that our societies are characterized by gender inequality, and especially gender inequality in older age is the result of disadvantages that have accumulated over the course of life and are aggravated by ages. We can say that in our region, many older women see their rights denied. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, this was aggravated because women older women suffered the disproportionate effects of the pandemic. So the gender gap during the pandemic has increased, and unfortunately, we see if current trends continue that women will continue to age in unfavorable situations unless we do a real change, structural change in our societies, how our societies and our economies work. It is also very important to discuss another structural problem in our region that affects older people, which is the lack of social protection. Indeed, we have seen some progress in the coverage of pension systems, but low levels of social protection persist in old age. Indeed, in 2019, in Latin America and the Caribbean, 1/4 of persons aged 65 and over were not covered by a pension, either contributory or non-contributory. So 1/4 of older persons without social protection. And in the first income quintile, which means the 20% poorest of the elderly population, that percentage rises to 43.7%. We also know that men have more coverage than women, and that women have especially are covered especially by non-contributory pensions, whose amounts are much lower than those of the contributory pensions. Then comes the pandemic over these structural problems of gender inequality, lack of social protection, and the realization of the rights of older persons becomes even more difficult. And in particular, the pandemic laid bare the weaknesses of the health services and of social protection. Furthermore, where forced confinement occurred, it caused deterioration in the physical and mental health of older people, which led to the gradual loss of autonomy and functional limitations. Also, in an era of telework, telecommuting, the digital divide was made visible, especially for older people in conditions of poverty and vulnerability, who either do not have access to technologies or do not have the sufficient knowledge to use them. So it is very important, it is key to analyze the socio-demographic impacts of the pandemic on older persons, and also to share lessons learned on the public policies that have mitigated these effects. Just demographic data on the effects of the pandemic between 2019 and 2020. Because of the pandemic in Chile, men aged 60 years and older lost 1.2 years of life expectancy, and women in the same age group lost about a year. So given these injustices and problems, we think that coordinated responses that put older persons' rights at the center of public policy responses are needed. Key messages in terms of public policy. One, obviously, we need to continue to promote universal health. Two, strive for the universalization of social protection to include the entire elderly population. Three, we need to improve basic services, which means water, sanitation, electricity, but also access to the internet. And we need to close the digital divide. We need to provide care, especially long-term care, eradicate the mistreatment and discrimination of older people, and also something which is an emerging issue, we need to assess the needs of older persons when disasters occur. So countries need to look at their civil response systems in case of disasters and consider the situation of a specific situation of the elderly in that case. So ageism is still a matter, is indeed a matter of high priority. It requires urgent area in different areas. One is to make it visible. Two, we need to rethink also policies for older persons from the perspective of human rights, gender, and interculturality to influence public policies. In this sense, international cooperation and interagency work are key. As UN in 2002, approved the International Plan of Action on Aging, and this plan has three main areas: one, putting older persons at the center of development; two, advancing health and well-being into old age; and three, ensuring, enabling, and supporting environments. Now we have the UN Decade of Healthy Aging, which goes from 2021 and 2030, and this decade adds value to the Madrid International Plan of Action thanks to its four areas, which are focused on changing the way we think, feel, and act towards age and aging. Two, we need to foster the abilities of older people. Three, delivering, integrating care and primary health services. And four, provide access to long-term care. So in conclusion, this decade of healthy aging involves considerable and urgent challenges. Centrally, we need to focus on the universalization of health services and on the universalization of social protection. And we need to also strengthen the national and international legal framework to protect the rights of older people. And the idea is to move towards what we at the ECLAC, the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, we have called a care society for all, in particularly for older people. So ECLAC is committed to work with all relevant United Nations agencies and all actors to contribute to overcome these problems and not to leave behind any elderly person. Thank you very much.
The presenter number 2 is Mr. American Plata, Secretary of Access of Right of Equity from the Organization of the American States.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about the work from the OAS on interagency action to promote the decade of healthy aging in the Americas. So I will discuss briefly the role of the OAS in this process alongside my colleagues who have spoken as to the roles of their different organizations. First of all, in context, and I think we have discussed it or we've heard it in different panels and presentations today, the specific issues facing the Americas right now are, on one hand, an increasing life expectancy, with, on the other hand, a broadening situation of inequality, triggered by a situation before the pandemic, which was not ideal, but that has been more profoundly impacted by the situations or the issues faced by different nations in the region throughout the process of the pandemic. So we know that systems have been hit very hard, and we know that financial expectations have not been ideal also in the region and worldwide. In this context, we know that older persons face challenges such as social stigmatization that keep them from achieving a position of autonomy, both financially and personally within the context of our communities, and also situations of discrimination and ageism, which impede their access or their full access to work and other opportunities to introduce themselves actively into the community. So we have an increasing life expectancy in a situation where those additional years, unfortunately, are not years in which older persons can live fully and enjoy their participation within the context of their communities fully because of the different issues facing them, including discrimination and ageism. But that can also escalate, as I mentioned here, to issues of violence and situations specifically pertaining to both their caretaking as well as them being caretakers, because we know that older persons in our region have a dual role in our families and communities. So these are, in general, some aspects that I wanted to draw out as to where we are in terms of access to rights of older persons in the Americas. In this context, from the OAS, we have a model that is more rights for more people. And this was a model that was introduced by our Secretary General back in 2015, and that permeates the work that we do, particularly in issues relating to access to rights. So this connects very well to the Decade of Healthy Aging, because we know that the intention of the Decade of Healthy Aging is to have 10 years of concerted, catalytic, and sustainable actions. Here we have a focus on a call for action, which is related to the way that we are promoting a different narrative as to how we act, how we feel, and how we consider aging to be a reality for all of us. All of us will at a point or another belong to this particular group. The other element of the Decade of Healthy Aging that connects to the view of the OAS is the principles of inclusion, equity, and intergenerational solidarity and commitment, which is very connected to creating communities where every single one of the inhabitants or participants has not only a full access to rights, but is also actively involved in creating or generating solutions to the different challenges that they have in community. So that each person is an active participant, and this incorporates a view on diversity, which is very relevant to the work that we do. And finally, also an access to human rights in general, but understanding that it is not sufficient to have parameters of human rights that are general. We need to go down and understand what the different groups are facing within our region and the world, and addressing the needs of each of those groups, including, among others, older persons. So from COVID, we have some lessons that I want to mention just because it is important to draw on them in order to continue building on efforts that we can promote moving forward. We know from COVID that we have a requirement to engage resources to respond and protect, respond to the needs and protect older persons. We also know that in every effort that we promote, we need to consider a way in which we can combat discrimination, in which we can combat stigmatization, and how this permeates to the different efforts. So in the case of the pandemic, we did see in that providing medical and social care specifically to older persons, there needs to be a level of sensitivity as to what their needs and their reality is. And this is something that we can build upon when considering measures relating to inclusion. Also, we need to make sure that we work towards upholding and guaranteeing the rights of older persons. So again, it's not just a matter of generally promoting standards which apply to all groups, but rather making sure that older persons within the context of their reality are able to access fully their rights to health, to dignity, and again, participate in the decisions that affect both their life as well as medical care. So these reflections from COVID and these recommendations immediately lead us towards how can we build upon the work that we are doing in order to address these new realities and the risks and challenges that I mentioned before are being faced in the region. And the work that from the OAS perspective is cornerstone in this regard is the work that we do around the Convention on Protecting Human Rights of Older Persons, which is very relevant in our conversation today because the convention was born in a space where there was constant exchange with PAHO, with ECLAC. So it built upon a process that was already very inclusive in terms of having different organizations on the table, being able to provide support and commitment to the work. So it started back in 2007 and the convention was finally approved in 2015. And through those years, there were efforts that created a scenario of interagency work that I think is very relevant to bring to the table today as something we can retrace and do again when working towards the Decade of Healthy Aging. So as a result of this work, we know that the convention that we have today within our region is a pioneering convention. We know that in the UN, there are different efforts promoting this work in light of the decade. And from the OAS, we are starting at a different situation because we do have a convention and we need to see how we can make sure that this opportunity that we have builds on the work that we are trying to do in a broader context of the decade. So the convention is pioneering, and again provides a paradigm shift to an integral vision of access to rights, not only that provides a defense of existing human rights, but also a view of inclusion, which is much broader and really generates a holistic approach to making sure that there is a full insertion of older persons in our day-to-day and the efforts that we as states are called upon to work after the pandemic in reconstructing and rebuilding our societies. Another important element is that it keeps an intersectional focus, which is something that is relevant when considering the importance to generate data. So we cannot only talk about older persons, we need to consider older persons who are in other groups, older persons who may be in a population of Afro-descendant persons, or who may also be in a population of indigenous persons, or persons with disabilities, or women who are older persons. So persons who are part of the LGBTI communities. We need to consider, and the convention provides for this, that there is an intersectional approach that can build a foundation of the work that we do, because it allows us to disaggregate data and to generate work that focuses specifically on different groups that need attention. Another important, or two important elements that I just quickly want to mention is the fact that the convention has a follow-up mechanism that already provides a way to move forward and to continue building on the work that is done in terms of supporting public policy and international cooperation, and also an access through an individual petition system to the Inter-American Human Rights System. So these are two elements that I consider very important of the convention. So when talking about protected rights, quickly mention that it's important to recall that the convention has both special interpretations of rights that are previously addressed in other norms, but it also has expanded context to cover, for example, work, health, education, and property, which is very relevant to the opportunities that we create of having full participation of older persons in our societies, and the way that we connect not only to the standards that are generally there, but also to their specific needs. And also there's the incorporation of new rights such as accessibility and personal mobility that further add to the opportunity of addressing the specific needs of older persons within the context of their access to rights in general through what the convention establishes. I mentioned, or I wanted to draw out some relevant definitions. First of all, the definition of older person, which is the last one listed here, but should be on top, to create that parameter, which again connects to when we generate data, what are we talking about, and create a baseline for all of the member states in the work that they do, that they can then go back and promoting their policies. We have the concept of age discrimination in old age, particularly, and also the definition of active and healthy aging, which is very relevant in the context that we are talking today, that connects not only an issue of the life expectancy and how it is growing, and how that is a relevant objective, but also how during those additional years of life that we are gaining, people make sure that have a quality of life, and we understand what that quality of life means, or what it looks like, or what we understand to be healthy aging. So the current situation of the convention is here, and I'll quickly say that it has been ratified by 8 OAS member states to date. Once it is ratified by 10 member states, the follow-up mechanism will be established. So that is an immediate goal that we have, to try to see when, hopefully in a very short period of time, we can maybe get additional member states to commit to the convention and trigger that mechanism to be established. And then finally, the path forward. As I said as I just mentioned, I would say one of the next steps, or the current step that we are working on, is again trying to get member states interested and committing to the convention. So the path forward for us is focused on continued awareness of both the importance of the adoption of the convention, but also of its contents and where it can be an opportunity for member states to build on their local efforts. We want to support efforts such as this that provide platforms that are collaborative, both to support member states holistically and also to work with other organizations and special agencies and specialized agencies towards efforts that are efficient and well-focused, and where we are all bringing to the table what we can provide. And also that are constructive, so that they provide opportunities of building forward to so that member states can exchange experiences, can cooperate, can build capacities among themselves, and that we can support them in this process. And also inclusive, that means not only in incorporating the work that we do, the role of organizations such as ourselves and member states, but also making sure that through the process, we bring into the fold civil society organizations and civil society voices that can help us work to design strategies and action plans that are sustainable from both a multilateral level as well as a local level. So I think that this basically gives you an idea of the work and approach from the OAS. And I know that we will go to a Q&A later on, so I'm very happy to answer any questions that may come or arise regarding the issues that I've talked about before. So thank you very much.
And the last presenter today in this panel would be Ms. Sabrina Juran, which is Technical Advisor on Population and Development in the United Nations Population Fund in our region.
Buenos días a todos y un agradecimiento especial a los y las organizadores del Congreso por su amable invitación. América Latina y el Caribe cuenta con la dinámica de envejecimiento más acelerada del mundo, lo que representa importantes implicaciones sociales, económicas y de salud pública. Con estas tendencias existen varias oportunidades y desafíos también para preparar a la región para el cambio demográfico. Será el envejecimiento acelerado de la población que pasará a ser la tendencia demográfica más relevante en esta región. Y a partir de este momento, los cambios en la estructura de edades estarán dominados por la dinámica de las generaciones de personas mayores, de manera que el envejecimiento y su incidencia sobre las demandas sociales será el fenómeno demográfico más significativo. Y es el año 2037 que marcará un hito en nuestra región, debido a que la proporción creciente de personas mayores superará a la de los menores de 15 años. Y eso es una etapa a partir de la cual el proceso de envejecimiento se convertirá en el fenómeno demográfico preponderante. La prolongación de la vida por el descenso de la mortalidad aumentó la proporción de personas mayores, que subió del 6% en 1965, como pueden ver en la pantalla, al 11.8% en 2017. Si bien la longevidad es una historia de éxito, las sociedades que envejecen generan desafíos para los sistemas de salud derivados de la creciente prevalencia de enfermedades crónicas y necesidades de atención a largo plazo. Adicionalmente, la pandemia ha traído desafíos adicionales y representa una amenaza desproporcionada para la salud, la vida, los derechos y el bienestar de las personas mayores, que están entre los grupos más vulnerables. Desde el Fondo de Población de las Naciones Unidas, el UNFPA, creemos que la discusión sobre el envejecimiento saludable es muy importante. Envejecimiento saludable y longevidad son absolutamente imprescindibles para nuestra región, ya que estamos en una transición demográfica la cual debe ser positiva, saludable y sostenible. Y uno de los resultados del avance de la transición demográfica y de la particular velocidad que ha presentado en la región ha sido justamente el envejecimiento de la población, el cual ha tenido distintos tiempos e intensidades dependiendo de cada país. El cambio de estructuras por edades de la población es un fenómeno que ha sido anunciado con prudente anticipación. Hoy en día, el envejecimiento demográfico es un proceso ya en marcha, con variaciones subregionales y entre países, pero bien establecidos. Desde el punto de vista de sus implicaciones económicas y sociales, se trata quizá de la transformación más importante de la época. Y este hecho es producto de la llamada transición demográfica, caracterizada por la caída de la fecundidad y la mortalidad y el consecuente incremento de la esperanza de vida. Se trata de un proceso heterogéneo, con marcadas desigualdades entre los países de la región. En continuación, yo quiero describirles las grandes tendencias demográficas. Lo primero es el rápido descenso de la fecundidad hacia el nivel de reemplazo. Y en América Latina y el Caribe pasó de la tasa de fecundidad muy alta de, por ejemplo, 5.5 hijos por mujer en comparación con el contexto mundial en el periodo de 1965 y 1970 a tasas levemente inferiores al nivel de reemplazo de 2.05 hijos por mujer entre el año 2015 y 2020, como pueden ver en la pantalla. Lo próximo es el aumento de la esperanza de vida, y este aumento de esperanza de vida ha sido un proceso constante y continuado durante todo el siglo pasado y se extiende hasta el presente. De un promedio aproximado de 59 años entre 1965 y 1970, se pasó a casi 76 años en el presente quinquenio. En promedio, la población ha ganado unos 17 años de vida en los últimos 55 años, es decir, 1.5 años por quinquenio. En las próximas décadas, la región deberá estar preparada para una gran concentración de los países en niveles bajos de fecundidad. Todos los países tendrán tasas bajo los niveles de reemplazo o muy cercanas a este en el quinquenio 2040-2045. Algo similar también ocurrirá con la mortalidad. Algunos países experimentarán incrementos de sus tasas brutas de mortalidad como consecuencia de sus estructuras etarias envejecidas. Los impactos de la transformación demográfica que ha experimentado la región se reflejarán en el futuro próximo e inmediato. La mediana de la tasa de crecimiento total de la región descenderá a 0.6 personas por cada 100 en el periodo de 2030 a 2035 y hasta que va a ser negativa en el periodo de 2060 a 2065. Cuando nosotros pensamos en países que atraviesen por un dividendo demográfico, pensamos en países que tienen una proporción relativamente grande de su población en edad de trabajar. Por el contrario, cuando nosotros pensamos en países que envejecen, resulta claro de que se trata de países que tienen una proporción cada vez menor de la población en edad de trabajar. Pero estos procesos no ocurren uno tras el otro. En realidad, reocurren con una superposición considerable en el tiempo. Si bien los países de nuestra región todavía tienen una población relativamente grande en edad económicamente activa, algunos ya están comenzando a ver el envejecimiento de sus poblaciones. Cuando hablamos de una economía en la cual se consumen más bienes y servicios por las personas mayores de más de 65 años que por los jóvenes que son menores de los de 19 años, estamos hablando de una economía envejecida. Y es en 2015 que ningún país de la región se ubicaba en la categoría de economía envejecida. En 2021 es Chile y en 2023 también Cuba, que se van a encontrar en la categoría de economía envejecida. Por ejemplo, en Chile se constata una economía envejecida en el momento en que la curva de consumo de la población joven tenga una intersección con la curva de consumo de la población mayor, significando que la población joven pasa a consumir menos que la población mayor. A ellos se sumarán en 2045 Brasil, Colombia, Costa Rica, Jamaica, México y Uruguay. Y en 2060, 19 países de la región serán economías envejecidas, ya que a esta categoría se habrán incorporado también la Argentina, el Ecuador, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Panamá, Perú, la República Dominicana, Suriname y Venezuela. Y esta condición inexorable nos coloca frente al desafío de satisfacer las necesidades de atención de la población adulta mayor, privilegiando la perspectiva de derechos. En este marco, las acciones del UNFPA apuntamos a la generación y el mejoramiento de las políticas públicas dirigidas a la realización de los derechos de las personas mayores. Derechos como la seguridad social, de acceso a la justicia, la participación, derecho a la salud, al cuidado, derecho a la vivienda, educación y trabajo. Todos estos bajo un enfoque que promueva la autonomía, la no discriminación y el buen vivir de las personas mayores. Ahí están enfocados nuestros esfuerzos. Si los países esperan para planificar el envejecimiento o abordar los problemas de envejecimiento hasta que su población en edad laboral se reduzca, entonces vamos a encontrarnos con situaciones a las que no vamos a poder resolver de un día para otro. Y es por eso la importancia de asegurar hoy instrumentos significativos que nos ayuden a abordar algunos de los desafíos que conlleva el envejecimiento, incluida la jubilación y el financiamiento de la atención médica. Me gustaría resaltar 3 ideas. La primera idea es la de la necesidad de un cambio hacia un enfoque propositivo y integrado. En el fondo, eso significa que la reforma de los sistemas de pensiones debe complementarse con esfuerzos integrados para reformar los sistemas de salud y los mercados laborales. Las reformas de los sistemas de pensión deben complementarse con esfuerzos para fortalecer el capital humano, empoderar a las mujeres, promover la calidad de género y invertir a las nuevas generaciones. La inversión en juventud es una de las principales políticas requeridas para enfrentar los desafíos provenientes del envejecimiento de la sociedad y la atención a la vejez. La segunda idea se refiere a que las sociedades obtengan un dividendo de longevidad. Esto significa que las personas maximicen una vida más larga y saludable. Y para que una sociedad maximice el dividendo de la longevidad, es esencial brindar a las personas opciones y comprender el envejecimiento desde una perspectiva del curso de vida. La tercera y última idea hace hincapié en la necesidad de nuevos sistemas de seguridad social que protejan a las personas adultos mayores. Porque necesitamos sistemas de protección social incluyentes que reconozcan el derecho de las personas mayores independientemente de su condición de cotizantes o no cotizantes. Necesitamos sistemas sociales que aseguren la autonomía, la capacidad legal y la toma de decisiones en la vejez. Necesitamos también que los esfuerzos nacionales, regionales e internacionales se orientan en propiciar y alcanzar la igualdad de personas mayores. Cualquier iniciativa dirigida a proteger los derechos de las personas mayores debe estar destinada a garantizar los derechos económicos, sociales y culturales vis-a-vis su autonomía y participación. En el contexto de la pandemia, se han hecho evidentes las dificultades de la falta de preparación de los sistemas de salud para atender adecuadamente a las personas mayores. Sería algo más para pensar y revisar, pero seguro es un capítulo extenso para otra conversación. Me gustaría cerrar con algunas conclusiones. Conscientes de que la titularidad de los derechos humanos de las personas mayores conlleva obligaciones para los estados en materia de respeto, protección y realización, desde el UNFPA apoyamos a los gobiernos nacionales para generar políticas públicas adecuadas que aseguren un desarrollo sostenible para mejorar el bienestar de su población, en este contexto de los adultos mayores. Y nuestro objetivo es evidenciar las tendencias del envejecimiento poblacional, los resultados de las proyecciones y asesorar en este sentido. Por ejemplo, la conceptualización de una ley que centre a la protección social para los adultos mayores. Pero para llegar a este paso, la protección social de los adultos mayores tiene que estar en la agenda del gobierno. Y esto implica también un cambio y un pensamiento al futuro, implementando políticas no para el periodo del gobierno actual, sino a largo plazo, cuando la población esté más envejecida en unos 20 o unos 30 años. En el Fondo de Población nos ocupamos todos los días de que la igualdad y la universalidad de la doctrina internacional de los derechos humanos se convierten en una realidad. Y pensamos en principios desde lo local y partimos desde la vivencia concreta de las personas que son más vulnerables y están más atrás. Buscamos dimensionar sus derechos desde sus reales necesidades y desde sus demandas más urgentes. En el caso de las personas mayores, estamos convencidas que, aunque todavía las personas mayores no cuentan con un instrumento jurídicamente vinculante, como ocurre, por ejemplo, con las mujeres, las niñas y los niños y las personas con discapacidad, debemos actuar ahora para generar los mecanismos que faciliten una vejez autónoma y digna. Y la acción interinstitucional como promotora de la década de envejecimiento saludable en las Américas tiene que ser una acción conjunta entre gobierno, la sociedad civil, el sistema de salud, el sector privado, los sindicatos y los usuarios de los servicios y al final la población afectada. Muchísimas gracias.
As a conclusion, we want to resume what all the presenters give us today in this panel. Mr. Cecchini give us, show us the older person in the Rio has found themselves in one of the most affected group and has experienced the greatest vulnerabilities while facing COVID-19, which has challenged the goal to achieving the fulfillment of the right and has endangered the possibility to achieve a healthy aging. And he showed us also how in the next decade, the protection of older person rights must be central to policies looking to strengthen, especially the system of social protection through the increase of decent and sufficient pension, universal coverage for health service and others. Ms. Plata shows us the roadmap of the Inter-American Convention of Protection of Human Rights of Older Persons and how the Organization of American States Secretariat of Access and Right and Equity support a state in the Americas in the work to promote and protect human rights with a special emphasis on people in situation of vulnerability. She showed us why the ratification of the Inter-American Convention of the Protection of Human Rights of Older Persons and educate about its content must be a priority not only for the Americas, but for the rest of the world. Ms. Huran made clear that during the next 10 years, we must have a fundamental commitment to address the gap in access and availability of data about care in older persons. And that will be aimed to generate and improving public policy aiming to realizing the rights of older persons. Rights such as social security, access to justice, participation, right of health, care, right of housing, education, and work, all of these under the approach to promote autonomy, non-discrimination, and good living for older people. Now, we will get from the participants some questions, and our panel will be pleased to answer them. International Association of Gerontology and Geriatrics for the opportunity to be here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. We have some technical problem with two members of the panel, and I'm very sorry, but Simone and Sabrina will not be with us in this question and answer. but Dr. Mari Carmen and me will be pleased to answer and try to comment all your questions and try to be satisfied then. So I would like to start because there is a first question here, Mari Carmen, and it's trying to be the what would be the connection between the Madrid plan and the action plan of aging and the decade of healthy aging. I think that we are in the process to access 20 years of Madrid in the Americas region. ECLAT is leading the process. We are all participating, not only the United Nations, but the Inter-American System organizations. And I don't know, I want to give you the word to start to talking about it, and I will complement after that.
Yes, I think from our perspective, although there is a connection on a broader level to the Madrid plan, I think that our work in terms of already having the convention, as I expressed in my presentation, is focused on getting more member states to commit to adopt and to ratify the convention. We are focused on that, as I mentioned in my previous presentation, and I think it allows member states to revisit this agenda, particularly with a new focus on the post-pandemic needs. So I think it does connect in that in having these discussions with member states on a regional level, we can also build momentum for global efforts that take place. So I think that this is probably one of the main positive aspects of having an interagency effort during the decade, is to bring all efforts to the table. And I think now after COVID, we're more connected than ever to be able to have these discussions both on that take place on a regional level, go into the global aspects and see how our work regionally can also support the efforts towards the enrichment of the Madrid plan.
Yes, indeed, and I want to say that for the last 2 years, we generate the platform of cooperation between all the agencies, members of the UN in the UN agencies in the Americas, and also the Inter-American System agencies, and we start to working together, trying to make a real multi-sectoral approach to the healthy aging decade. And one of the things that we were clear that we need to start build the process over what we do around the Madrid plan. So we are trying to initiate this process. Even we are now. I think that in the first 3 months of next year, we will have the assessment of the Madrid plan, and we will have a meeting and try to put together all the result the countries of the region get about it, and try to build over that the result of the decade. Mari Carmen, I think that well, in your presentation you show how the convention has been approached by many countries in the region, and we knew that today 8 countries has been endorsed the convention, and I know that there is 2 or 3 more that are in the way, some of them very advanced. What do you think that when we activate the convention, how you see, how you will imagine that this activation will help us in approach the decade in a better way? How you imagine that process?
I think that it will provide a permanent platform to continue the work and build upon the work that is set forth. Because although the convention establishes standards and rights, there is an ongoing work that takes place once member states commit to the convention that can then build action plans that can then work together with civil society, which is a very important component that I was thinking about after just mentioning the efforts on the Madrid plan. I think an overall effort that includes civil society is also very important. And having these platforms ongoing and activated will provide that opportunity. So I think that it will be the great start of continuous work and conversations from member states, and then we can start going and assisting in creating cooperation and creating and collaborations that can permeate to public policies locally.
I don't see other question, but I think that for us it has been very important the participation of the academic, the science, and the researchers in the gerontology and geriatric. I think that we have been very active in the relation between the academic and the United Nations system agencies, trying to develop technical tools and try to develop assessment, indicators, data that can help us to establish real target and try to assess in some way the advance or not that we can do around the decade strategic actions and so on. How you, Maria del Carmen, see the research approach that we can have around the decade of LCAG?
Yes, definitely. Like I mentioned, I think that having an opportunity, as I said before, I think that this is one of the perspectives of the work that we do with the convention and the decade is to have a multi-sectorial approach. And that incorporates, as I said, the voices of civil society, very much research, and having data, having information that can be collected and presented for decision makers, but that also can give us a platform or a basis to start making more informed decisions. And I think that is a key to have a more option set on the table to continue this work.
Well, I think that we are on time. I want to thank you, Simon, and Sabrina, the way that you are always compromised with Decade and the agency, and to be part of this webinar. And I want to thank the International Association of Gerontology of Geriatrics for the opportunity to be here. So see you soon. Thank you very much.